Hello viewers, so it's time to learn a bit more now from Dan Greenawalt about Forza 5. Some of it you may know, some of it you may not. So this next is a two-part interview where we're going to learn a bit more. Let's see what Dan has to say.
Well, obviously you guys know what Forza Motorsport is, and this is Forza Motorsport 5. It's our most ambitious project yet, and honestly, it's one of the most exciting times in all of our career. The team is bigger than ever, we're working better than ever, and we're working on features that are really exciting. Honestly, when you think about a great racing game, there's four key things you really want. Well, there's a lot of things you want, but there's four things I'm going to focus on. One, you want great physics, and I'll talk about that. The partnership with Calspan and what we're doing in physics just weren't possible in the last generation. Graphics, you want great graphics. And on the Xbox One, we have 1080p, 60 frames per second, and an all-new lighting engine that really brings the world to life with its imperfections and humanity. We have great multiplayer with dedicated servers and smart match. It means you're paired up against people that speak your language, people that play the way you play with. So no more cheaters, no more jerks. And this multiplayer, the dedicated servers, means you have really high quality of service. And the last thing to talk about is opponents. Obviously, we talked about Drivatar at E3. It's very revolutionary, and if I'm honest, I've had trouble really describing it because it's not like anything. It's different. It's cloud-based, it is a learning system, but it's all data. So it's actually looking at how you race, it's looking at how your friends race, and creating an entirely new way of experiencing opponents. So there are a lot of new stories that there are to tell about physics in Forza Motorsport 5. Obviously, we have open wheel. And open wheel is fantastic. It's something we've wanted to do for a long time. We wanted to do it right. By having great partnerships with Audi, McLaren, we're able to get great data about the kinetics that are going on inside of the actual suspension in these cars. But it's not just the suspension in a car like this, the P1, but it's classic Formula One cars like the cars seen in the recent Rush movie with Ron Howard. So bringing open wheel with Indy cars, with classic Formula One cars, that was a challenge for us, but wasn't impossible. We just needed to approach it the right way. What was more challenging was what we were changing with the tires. So obviously tires is a passion of mine, it's a passion of our team, and part of that is because it's a never-ending pursuit of perfection. You're never going to get it just right. You have to keep learning, stay on the cutting edge of science. It's not good enough to use last year's data. So when we worked on Forza 4, Pirelli, it was a great partnership. We got great data. But there were some questions I asked that the answers just didn't really, they didn't add up. They didn't make a lot of sense. Frankly, Pirelli was not as interested in testing the extremes. In fact, nobody had. So we went to Calspan. It's an organization not a lot of people know, but they're in Buffalo, New York, and they're some of the world leaders in tire testing and aeronautic testing, and they do drone programs and all sorts of crazy science fiction stuff. But they're the ones that develop tire tests that guys like Toyo, guys like Pirelli, guys like Yokohama use. They're actually called Calspan tests. So we went to Calspan and asked them the same questions we asked Pirelli. The difference was Calspan said, "Oh, that's cool. We don't know the answer to that either, but I think we could figure out how to answer it. We can develop the right tests." And that allowed us to isolate some really, really obscure variables. But if you know cars, you know these variables would be important. How does extreme slip angle react with pressure? Pressure and heat. Heat with weight. Camber. We had this new suspension model that put a lot more camber into the tires. We needed to have that heat just right, so having the new testing actually made the tires much more accurate. What does this all mean? Obviously I can go on and on about physics, I love to. What this all means is you're getting an even more accurate physics representation in Forza 5 than we've ever done before. Using the power of Xbox One, we can deliver more computational mumbo-jumbo. Really what it comes down to is we can deliver a much more accurate simulation. And if you turn the sys off, if you are someone who really understands cars and really understands how cars should drive, it feels so much better, it feels so different. So I've had a lot of people ask me, really what more could you do in physics? And my answer is there's always more we can do in physics. And our goal is to always be pursuing that perfection.
So some interesting bits and pieces there, and of course this will follow up in the next part of our Forza coverage where Dan continues his discussion about Forza Motorsport 5, and of course there are other videos on the channel as well for all the new racing games shown at Gamescom, so do check those out and there'll be more from me very soon.